Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kathe Petchel, and I am with HINGE Advisors. I am one of the business development team members, and you are in for a treat this afternoon. You are going to be hearing from my good friend and colleague, and also a superstar in our industry, Beth Cannon. Super excited to invite Beth to join us. She's talking today about the power in processes, improving your childcare operations. And I'm really excited to hear all of her nuggets. She is a prolific writer and speaker. Actually, right now she's in New Mexico. She's speaking to a childcare group at a conference. And Beth, can you jump on and say hello and get ready to present your slides?
I am here. Can you hear me? There I am.
Hey. I see you.
And I see you. Yes, I am in New Mexico to speak at the New Mexico Childcare Conference. So super excited to be here, do a whole day of leadership and keynote tomorrow. So thank you for having me on. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. I am not a natural systems person. My brain goes to visionary, my brain goes to the big picture, but I've learned in 26 years of running my business is that if I don't have processes and I don't have good systems, that business stays in my brain. And you know, KP, you and I think the same way. There's always a party going on in our head, right?
Yes.
Always a party going on in our head. So I want to teach you some tactics today on how to get your business out of your brain, to get yourself organized, and then most importantly, to get your team aligned. So let's go ahead and kick right on into this. But Kathe, while you're on here, I wanted to say, from one process improvement person to another, these are all of the adventures that you and I have, not all of them, but some of the adventures that we have had together. But I have to tell you guys, the power of community in being with like-minded people who get you and who are moving toward the same goals as you is super, super powerful in creating a business. So whether your community is online, like something like this, or you're live and in person, like you might be at Shift or some of the conferences and events that Hinge has for you, get involved, because every single time you are smart enough to rub creative shoulders with people who are working toward the same goals as you, and in this specifically process improvements, you want to connect with like-minded people who are moving in the same direction. So my first question to you is this: do you trust your processes? Henry Ford says, if you always did what you always do, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And I think now it's more important than ever for us to really strategically take a look at what's working, what's not working, and what needs to change in our processes. So I hope that you're a note taker. I'm going to give you lots of things to talk about with your leadership team when you go back. And of course, I'm not sure what your structure is. Tell me in the chat, are you an owner or are you a director? Because I'm wondering, who are we talking to today who actually has control over what's happening on the back end of your business? Like I see Jamie Martin, I see that you're on here. Jamie's been through several of my programs, and this is a question that I always ask. What doesn't happen if you're not here? Oh, I see Bob's on there too. Brenda. Oh, I see lots of friends. But the big question is what doesn't happen if you are not there? And I want to give you some ideas. Basically, think of this one big idea. You all probably have SOPs, your standard operating procedures. What I want you to shift to is going from having SOPs where they're connected, disconnected, organized in Google folders like I teach my people to do. I want you to think in terms of playbooks. Like, what if you had a playbook for recruiting, a playbook for hiring, a playbook for onboarding, a playgroup for curriculum? So think of the different playbooks that you could have in your business. So as we're going through this, I want you to just actively take notes and realize, what assets do you have that can help get that business out of your brain and moving forward? So yeah, I see a variety of different people are in here. So getting your business out of your brain. When you think in terms of what doesn't happen if you're not here, Kathe Gray, I'm so glad I saw that you're on this, because Kathe, I don't think you'll mind me sharing this because we've shared it before on a public platform. But several years ago, not too many years ago, Kathe had a traumatic brain injury, and she was out of her business. Like no warning. Like traumatic brain injuries don't don't just happen. You don't get a heads up for that. And she had to completely step away from her business. And so much of it was in her brain. And so understanding how to use some project management tools and get her business out of her brain and help train her team so that her business, and Kathe, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you have 5 locations in Virginia. Her business was so much in her brain. And now she's learned to empower her team and make that incredibly successful business less reliant on her. And I think that's probably, if you're an owner, that's what you want and look forward to. Okay, Kathe, I'm glad you said of course, because I just spilled your tea. But the good news is now is you came back from that injury and you were very, have continued to be very successful and grow and scale with the right leadership team in place. So when you think in terms of your processes and systems, many of you here are directors. And as directors, the entire operational piece from the day-to-day oftentimes rest on your shoulders. And so you've got all these things that you're doing, right? You've got payroll, schedules, call-out supplies, the challenges of all the people that you deal with, payroll, bills, subsidies, all those things. But leadership is not necessarily on your agenda. And so when you look in terms of all the things that you have to do, how can you put processes in place that don't necessarily require you or that are easily repeatable? Now, if you have repeatable processes in place so that you've got consistency that's happening every time a gear has to turn, you don't necessarily have to turn it. There's a system or there's a process in place. That's good. But are you keeping the people accountable to turning those gears, accountable to doing what they need to do on a daily basis? That's hard. And so I want to give you some tips and tricks too on how to hold your leadership team accountable as you're moving through this. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Where do you want to be 1 year from today? We are looking Q4 directly in the face. It's coming up soon. You want to make sure that you are ending strong. Q4, I think, is a great time to look back at what was working, what was not working, and what needs to change. So what if you could make one process improvement in your schools going forward for this year? I want you to tell me in the chat, what would that process improvement be? Is it is it in operations? Is it in dealing with your people, with your human resources? Is it in your sales and your marketing funnels? Is it in your finances? So let's tackle one at a time. What would be the one area that you would like to see yourself make some massive improvements? What's been your biggest pain point? Because that's going to help you know, okay, when you get off this webinar, what action are you going to take? So we've got Kathe, Lindsay, you say finance. Jamie, you say do your manuals to modules and get your onboarding perfected. Okay, and you know what? You've got that course, right? So good job, Jamie. You've got a system for that. Lisa, increase enrollment, accountability for directors. Brandy, yes, these things are so important. Oh, hey, Paulette. Paulette says enrollment. Finding the time. The time's never going to magically appear, right? You've got to time block your time. So look at your calendar and decide. You decide when you're going to go on vacation. You decide when you're going to do payroll. You decide when you need to hire. So you're making decisions in your business all the time. What is the thing that is most important to do? So you guys have lots of things to get going. Candace, you say use Trello to organize your curriculum tasks. These things are great, but you've got to figure out realistically, when can you do it? And it's not going to happen unless you block it on your calendar. So I think when you're looking at improving your processes, you've got to decide how long is it going to take, like converting your paper manual into modules. The framework that I teach is that should take you about 40 days, just working on it, here and there, it should take you about 40 days to do it really strongly. So over the next 40 days, what could be your sprint to get that done? So if you start now, September 10th, by the beginning of November, you should have this asset ready to go. And, you're here because you're in the community for Hinge Advisors, and people who are in this community are people who are looking to level up, you're looking to sell, or you're looking to scale at some point in your life. So whether you're scaling or whether you're selling, you still have to get your business in place, because your systems and your processes are assets that actually make your business more valuable. So keep that in mind. Where do you want to be in 1 year? So the mistakes that you're making, the number one would probably be, is that you tell yourself that you're going to get more organized when you have more time. Well, you're never going to get more time. It's just choosing what matters. And if you allow the day-to-day grind to pull you back into operations, that's going to keep you from moving forward. Okay, so keep that in mind. So strategy number 1, align your values and your vision and stop getting distracted by that daily grind. So what you value determines what you do. So let's take, getting organized in a project management tool, whether it's Trello or Asana or Monday.com, whatever your project management tool would be. You've got to decide that it's so important to you that nothing is going to stop you from doing it. So when you think of the things that continue to keep you distracted, you're never going to get to where you want to go if you allow that. So what you value determines what you do. So if you value streamlining your processes, then you are going to make time on your calendar to do that. And where do you even start, right? Think of every time you have to do something repetitive, you're repeating your process. I want to give you a tool, and if you're in my community and you're in my teaching, you know this tool, right? It's Scribe How. So if you don't know what Scribe How is, write that down. It's AI, it's free. And what Scribe How allows you to do, you just turn it on and it literally records every click that you make on your computer with screenshots and directions. It'll say, number 1, navigate to, Trello, for example. Number 2, open this board. Number 3, recreate this checklist to make it a template to repeat weekly so that my directors understand what their weekly routines are. So, and it just records it, and it records it in a PDF. And so you can take that PDF, and that PDF is actually your already created, done for you standard operating procedure. So I am going back through my business. I've got my SOPs. And as I mentioned, I'm creating playbooks for each department. For each thing that we do, we're having a playbook. And it's going to consist of the PDFs from Scribe How. And then, of course, in Beth Cannon fashion, I'm going to make this really great training with a really beautiful slide deck. And I'm going to create some courses so that when my leaders sit down to work through something, they know what I think. They're going to know how to do it. They're going to know why it's important. They're going to understand the process and what it looks like to be successful in this thing. So I want my business to be less reliant on me. So I am going to be relentless because I value my time. I value my team. I don't want them to have to come to me and say, Beth, how do we place an ad on Indeed again? How do we do job offers again? How do we create this curriculum again? So I want them to be less reliant on me. So think of, if something were to happen to you, like it did to my friend Kathe, and you cannot be in your school for a month, 2 months, 3 months, what doesn't get done if you're not there? And that is where you start to begin to prioritize. So what you value determines what you do. Get yourself a calendar and mark out the time, deciding how long it's going to take you to do it. So that is strategy 1. So when you think about your business, I want you to think of in terms of your operations and your operational leadership and your strategic leadership, right? So the plane needs both of them. So probably you've got the strategy, right? You know where you're going. Strategy in childcare is not super difficult. We pretty much have we know where we're going. We know, do we want to stick with this? Do we want to grow? Do we want to scale? Do we just want to maximize what we have? But it's the operational leadership that continues to get us stuck in the day-to-day. So, if your goal is to hold your leadership team more accountable, do they have KPIs, key performance indicators? Do they have OKRs, the objectives and the key results that you want to get? Are you really clear about what success looks like with that? So understanding the difference in those two. So plan for operational excellence. You want to make sure you're building SOPs, AKA I'm going to start calling them playbooks, so you can get the business out of your brain. That's number 1. You've got to start there. Number 2, you got to get a blueprint of who's doing what, when. I believe this: if someone doesn't own a task, nobody owns it. So for those of you who said you want to work on your marketing, listen, you've got to make sure that someone owns that. Is it whoever answers the phone? Is someone regularly checking your CRM, whether you're using Line Leader or IntelliKids? Hopefully you've got a CRM that's helping you manage those leads, so you're automating some of it. But if somebody doesn't own it, nobody owns it. So when a parent just shows up at the door to ask for a tour, who's responsible for that? Is it the cook? Oftentimes, this is what I see. It's the cook. It's whoever answered the door. And then the cook's not a salesperson. She's in the middle of making, fish sticks and broccoli or whatever's on the menu for the day. And that's not your salesperson. So if you're needing to grow and build your enrollment, as some of you are, you've got to make sure that somebody owns the sales piece, that somebody owns your tour stops, and that there is someone always, always, always at the school that is ready to give those tours. So there's got to be an SOP. What do you want them to say? What parts of the story? Like, why would they choose you? Do they understand the values of your school? Do they understand the curriculum and your philosophy on childcare? Schools are very different. So make sure that you understand who's doing what. Make sure they know what to do and how to do it, and that there's a strategic process. So it's not just, again, whoever answers the door steps in. And then you want to make sure you've got a strong strategic plan with clear vision, values, and culture. And that sounds so woo-woo. But if you're hiring and firing based on those values, you are going to begin to create a better culture. And I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see when I go to my schools, we are tired of people who are not on brand for our company working there. And so I teach my people how to analyze your team. And we take the roster and we look at it and say, who's on our A team, who's on our B team, who's on our C team. And the basic questions for that is, do they get it? Do they understand? Do they comprehend the job, what they're supposed to do? Do they crave it, right? So do they comprehend it, first C? Do they crave it, second C? Do they want it? Do they really want to be here? Do they really want to teach this class or lead this school or handle this project that they're handling? And then, are they capable of it? Can they do it? So when you're looking at your people, those are the questions that will kind of maybe help you understand, are they A team, are they B team, are they C team? Your A teamers, you want to make sure you hang on to them. Your B teamers, remember, they're buildable, but your C teamers, you got to decide if they're a Cancer and if you need to say, see ya. So building that strategic plan means making sure that you've got the right people in the right place. And if you're thinking, well, Beth, we're always going to have C teamers. You may, but your goal is to coach them up or coach them out. So keep in mind, who you have on your team is going to drive your daily piece, because if you've got a really strong director who's vision minded, who is ready to help you take your vision, or if you are a director, if you're the person to lead that school, it's really hard to lead when you're dealing with someone who can't show up to work on time or show up to work at all, or can't find their kind, empathetic voice that means business, but is firm, not stern, but fun, right? So there are all these things that you're trying to do to accomplish that. But these are the things that you need to get a plan for operational excellence. But I don't want you to forget that culture piece is so important, because it's the people who are not aligned with your vision and values that are costing you time and ultimately costing you money. And what you cannot put a price on is the daily piece that a good, strong team is going to bring you. So that's just my kind of bonus leadership thoughts as we move through this. So, okay. Mistake number 2 is not understanding that what you tolerate is what you perpetuate. And, I said this on the stage at the last Shift conference in Charleston. Nothing is going to burn a good employee like watching you tolerate a bad one. And so that is going to help you keep your culture aligned. And I know this is about processes, but I promise you can't get to your processes until you get the team aligned. And a big process is making sure you've got the right people in the right seats. So knowing the power of your processes is strategy number 2. So if you're a note taker, I'm giving you 3. That's number 2. So again, as I said, if somebody doesn't own it, nobody owns it. So this is what I want to encourage you to do. When you do your next strategic planning, or maybe you do quarterly planning, or you're moving forward. And let me just ask you a question. Is there anyone here who does not have planning meetings? You might not want to say in the chat, but if you're bold enough, say in the chat. And I just want to tell you, that's okay. It's great to admit where we need to work, but you've got to make sure that you are creating the time to do this. Because if you found the time to listen to a 1-hour webinar, you're going to find the time to take a look at all of your processes. So when I'll go in and do a leadership retreat, we'll say, okay, what are all let's do a bucket. Let's take a look at your people, your human resources. What are all the things that we do at our school, and who's responsible for it? And then let's make sure that the people who are responsible for it own it. So for example, when you're creating your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, or your playbook, it needs to be really clear with who owns that specific procedure or that process. And the reason it needs to be clear, because if it needs to be updated, someone needs to be responsible for updating it. Okay. And if that's why we don't do books either. That's why we don't like pick up a big manual and have a manual, because if you print it out and you've got all the manuals and you've got all the processes, then every time you change it, you're going to have to go rip out the paper, print it off, put it back in the binder. So I'm just a big believer that you should use some sort of platform to store these in. Okay. This is how you do it. This is how you create your SOP. So again, note takers, get ready. Here you go. And I know I've got Bob and Jamie on here. You guys have done my Learn to Lead Academy, so you have seen this before. You have got this, but so this is hopefully a good reminder to you for how to do it. So the first thing you're going to do is conduct a recurring task audit. What does that look like? You're going to list all of your recurring processes within your business. Okay, so you can categorize them into daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. Know this: there's a difference in your routines and in your projects. Okay, your routines are something, again, that you do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever. Like a Monday project, you always do on a Monday. A Tuesday project, you always do on a Tuesday, and so forth. So make sure that you are taking a look at maybe dumping them into these categories. And then you can, of course, take a look at what bucket are they in. Are they HR? Are they operations? Are they finance? Are they sales? Are they marketing? Are they curriculum? The different buckets that you would look at in your business. Then there's three key questions that you want to ask. So number one, what are the tasks that you do? Which of these tasks take up the most of your time? I always encourage my people to do a time audit. I do time audits at least once a quarter for myself, and I ask my leaders to do them once a month. I want to know what my leadership team is spending their time on. Can we eke out more efficiencies in their time? Are they doing things that don't matter? Are they doing things that help us get to our business goals? And if the things don't matter, they don't matter. But if there's anything that we can automate, delegate, or eliminate, that's what we want to work at. So then what is it in your business that you really resent having to do over and over again? This one is a big one. What do you resent having to do over and over again? I want you guys to jot that. If you're in the chat, and I hope you are, write in the chat, what are the things that you resent having to do over and over again? For me, it's answering the same questions over and over and over again. I'm like, I taught you this once. We went over this. Why are we continuing to do it over and over and over again? And so what can we do to keep it more simple? Do I need to have a swipe file, which is just a Google Doc with the answers to all those questions? So when someone comes back to me and asks me the same question over and over and over again, I copy, I paste it, boom. Any kind of template that you can make, anything that you can automate. Okay, Stephanie, you say scheduling. What about the schedule cannot move? Can the schedule stay the same? Take a look critically at your schedule. Kathe, you say telling staff the same thing over and over, right? So where these things that they're asking you, where do you store that information? Is it in, do you have a manual? Is it in a short training? Is it in a short video? I've seen a lot of my owners, if it's something that's happening in the school, they literally whip out their phone, nothing fancy. They record themselves, let's say, loading a dishwasher or setting the alarm for the evening or whatever the thing is. They record it, they upload it to YouTube, they make a QR code, and then they paste those QR codes all over the building. And so when a teacher has a question about how do you load the dishwasher, scan the QR code on your phone. There you go. So that's just one thing that I see a lot of my owners doing. So telling the staff over and over, do we have this? Where is the this? So Karen, my question is, they're asking, do they have it? Maybe you need to go back and tweak your onboarding and put those questions. So many SOPs and standard operating procedures are made up from mistakes and gaps that we see in our business. So I'm asking you this question because this may be where you want to start. Brady, you say reminders for payroll and grants, they happen regularly and they have the same responsibilities each time. So do you have any sort of automated reminders? Like, is this for your leadership team? If it's for your leadership team, we use Google Calendar. And so if I need my leadership team to know something, I put it on our Google Calendar and they're set to get reminders for those things, using your phone for reminders, all those things coming up, because getting your business out of your brain matters. So again, I will ask you, what can you automate? What can you delegate? What can you eliminate. And Melinda, you say thinking something has already been addressed, and then there you go again, dealing with the same issue. And sometimes we do. And I want to give you a little bit of coaching around that. You need to be asking the questions when someone comes to you, not in a condescending way at all, but in a way that, do you remember, we've had this conversation before, what parts of this do you remember us discussing before? So instead of me giving you the whole thing up front, help me understand, what do you already know about this, and what information can I fill in for you? And that way, when they have to verbally repeat it, they're going to remember. I also work with a business coach, and she did this with me today. I asked her a question and she said, Beth, you've asked me that question before. Think about the answer that I gave you before. And I'm grown, right? Like, I'm a business owner, and I pay this person to help coach me through it. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, yeah, you're right. I did know that. I had that information, but her asking me the right questions helped me to remember, okay, I have that. It's in my brain. I need to get it out. And she said, okay, what system can you put in place so that you don't come back to me and ask me that again? And it was found in the job description that I have for someone on my leadership team. Okay, Karini said automated reminders do not always work, and that is true. But I would say they probably work better than the brain, right? So try it, and if it's not working, figure out something. Maybe we need a new system, right? So tell me, Karina, in the chat, which one is not working, and maybe the people here or I can offer you a solution that may be better for you. Okay, here we go. Here's number 2, documenting the process. Use the SOP template provided. And when I say a template provided, it looks like this. This is the thing. This is very simple. So write this down. Who is responsible for it? Why are we doing it? What needs to get done? And how are we going to do it? Those simple things. That is a standard operating procedure. It can be one-pagers. If you had just simple one-pagers in your business for all the things that need to get done, it would free up so much of your time. So the key to it is to embed a systems culture into your business from the moment you have a new hire. So you may have people who have bad habits from before. Guess what? That gets to change as you onboard. So let's say, Jamie, let's say you get it in gear and you do have your onboarding automated, right? You do have you've taken your manual, you've put it in courses, you've recorded it. So that way these people are getting the same information every single time they're onboarding. Once you get that in place, onboard everybody. Go back and use as part of your training, onboard everybody like it's brand new so that everybody gets on the same page. So it involves some time initially. However, there's a lot of value as you move through it. So think of the processes that you need to document specifically for your business. Yes. Oh, hey, Rhonda. Okay, here are your questions. Who's going to do it? What needs to get done? These might be in the wrong order. Who is going to do it? Why is it important? What needs to get done? And how are we going to do it? And again, the how, I want to recommend to you guys Scribe How. It's just the AI tool that you use to create it. And guys, there's so much that AI, just something as simple as ChatGPT, can help you with. So if you get stuck on this, think about the prompts that you could use in AI, to go in and say, I am creating standard operating procedures. Give me a sample format that includes these 4 questions. And then this is what I need to do. Give us some general information on how to do it. And then feed it. And then as it begins to spit back information, you can begin to refine that information and figure out what is going to work for you and your business. Okay, Karina, you said the ones that happen regularly, subsidy submissions, payroll, playground inspections, not always. But it has happened even with reminders. So that needs to be something and these are all big things, right? People always are going to need payroll reminders. They're going to need those kinds of reminders. So automate them, but maybe make a point on your calendar is that you're going to have to go back and remind people. And then sometimes things need to have consequences. So let me give you an example of that, Karina. For us, they have to submit their payroll. And it's just a simple, quick Google form that they have to go in and confirm their time on their payroll. And it says, if you do not submit your timesheet, you will not be able to get a paycheck this time. And when they realize that, they're going to submit their timesheet. We rarely have anyone that doesn't submit it, but We do that. And then also too, for the ones that have done that repeatedly, not submitted their timesheet, we tell them that we're going to charge them a $10 fee, because now our admin person has to go back to their last payroll and do it again. So people can't get their job done without the people that they need the information from doing it before. So sometimes just explaining, this is the why it's important. Why is subsidy important? Because that's how we get paid. And our business cannot run unless we get our subsidy payments. And so there's a lot of paperwork involved in that. So sometimes just sitting down your team and say, guys, hey, this is a source of frustration for me. I can't do my job paying bills, running the business, if our subsidy submissions haven't been done. And so this is why it's important. So you tell me, what is something that would help you remember when these are done? And then just help people to get accountable, because sometimes we can track your KPIs, right? We can track performance because it is, specific, measurable, attainable, all the SMART goals, right? We can track that. But sometimes it's just habits. People just need to do better at getting into the habit of doing things when they're supposed to be done. Some of us have a harder time because we're just, a little bit messy and not as organized. And so people who are not as organized, they need to find a system that works in their brain. So whatever it is that you're responsible for, or whatever it is that you give to your team to be responsible for, we need to make sure that we're holding people accountable and understand that there could be some consequences if we don't get our part of the job done. And I feel like this too, Kathe, I think it was you that said holding leadership team accountable. Sometimes it feels like you're playing a game of who's the jerk. Am I the jerk for having to constantly tell you what to do? Or are you the jerk for not doing it, right? Nobody's a jerk. Nobody wants to be, nobody's being the jerk here. It's just that we've got to figure out a workflow that works for us. So I see owners who are frustrated because their leaders aren't doing the things they're held accountable to. And when they go to the directors and their leaders and say, why didn't this get done? The leaders are saying, because I got pulled back into the classroom to help the teachers do their job. So it's almost like in childcare, it's almost like a domino effect. And so I think it has to start with empowering your teachers, your support staff, your cooks, whoever whatever your org chart looks like. It starts with empowering people at all levels of your organization, and then holding them accountable to what they agreed to do. And sometimes it's just reminding people. So hopefully that will help. Oh, domino effect. Oh, hey, Dana. Okay. The fourth thing is this: ensuring ongoing maintenance. So I said the number one thing is who owns it. Each set of SOPs should have a property owner assigned. Then they know they update it when they need it. And here's something really frustrating. Softwares. Oh my gosh. When softwares update and you have to go back and change your SOPs. So frustrating, but guess what? It's got to get done. That's why a tool like ScribeHow is really helpful. And if you are using, software, SaaS softwares as a service, or platforms or other things that are kind of out of your control with when they do updates, oftentimes those softwares like Line Leader, ProCare, whichever ones you're using, they will have knowledge banks that you can go and maybe grab a video from them, or they've got SOPs that are already typed out for you. So make sure when you're looking at doing those things, go back to the platforms that you use as a service and ask them, I need a standard operating procedure for billing. I need a standard operating procedure for, setting up my templates for the automation in my CRM funnel. They probably have that information, and maybe you're making it harder than it needs to be. So think about that, because things change so much. And by keeping your team members accountable for those processes, like, for example, whoever's in charge of sales and marketing, and as I said earlier, if someone doesn't own it, nobody owns it. Whoever's responsible for your tours is also responsible for making sure that the SOPs are updated for your tour stops, for your CRM, for your funnels. If you want to come up with some new emails to respond to parents by, if you want to have a callback system, think of all those things that you do, reactivations where you're reaching out to old customers and you're trying to build your enrollment. Think about that. Your outreach is really important. I have seen, and you guys tell me this in the chat, and actually KP and I have had this discussion. A lot of our schools were seeing lower enrollment in their 3 and 4-year-old classes because of public pre-K. So I'm curious, are you experiencing that in your business? I know a lot of my customers here in the Dallas area where we do our Stretch and Grow program are experiencing that. And I'm seeing people really go back to their wait lists in their infants, toddlers, and twos, and maybe adjusting some rooms. Okay. Oh my gosh, all the people are saying amen. There's a lot of the amen corner is going on in the chat right now. Go back to those infants, tots, and twos, and go back to your wait list, right? And begin to work that wait list and call people and say, hey, we decided to open up a new 2-year-old room, or we're opening up an infant room. So it may look different. I mean, I know that your profit margins are better with the older age groups because you can put more children in the classroom, but you've got to do what you can to survive, right? So have some sort of system to where you're actively marketing and reaching out to those families who've shown interest for you before. So keep that in mind as well. Don't let the SOPs in your sales and marketing fail, because again, like I said earlier, whether you're selling or whether you're scaling, you want to make sure that you've got strong financials. So that is very, very important. Okay, Ronnie, you're saying you're considering a community-based organization. So we partner with our ISDs and provide that free preschool. And I don't know how that works. I know some states have like Georgia is one, for example, which, by the way, Georgia, the Georgia Childcare Association, they've had such an active lobbyist. Ellen was great. I think Ellen Reynolds has moved on, but she did such good work in Georgia in getting that public pre-K system to where private childcare owners can put a public pre-K class in their center. So I think that mixed delivery, that I'm not well versed in that, so don't quote me on that. That's definitely not my area of expertise. But I know that in some areas, partnership programs are optional. So if that is an option in your state, you definitely want to look into that. Okay, moving along, guys. We're on the third part now, so hang with me. Hope you guys are still with me. You've got your pens. The third mistake you possibly could be making is believing anyone read your paper manual, remembering that to know what they're supposed to know, think, and do. I have had digital trainings in my business for almost 15 years, like way back in the day of just a PowerPoint with a voiceover from the PowerPoint, no video, just a voiceover. I am my background, my job out of college, I was a high school English teacher. And a lot of the things that I teach to a 16-year-old brain. And I understand this as a teacher of adults, as a teacher of teachers, and as a leader of leaders. Most of us are visual learners, and then we combine that with auditory learners. So we're more attuned to our different senses. If you're just giving people a paper manual to read it, number one, they're not reading it because we're skimmers, right? We're TikTokers with an average 8-second attention span. But you want to make sure that if you're frustrated that your people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I want to ask you, is there anything that you can be doing to change that? Because sometimes it's a them problem. More often, and here's a hard truth, and I'm preaching to myself on this, it's an us problem. People don't remember things because they haven't been trained well to understand what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be doing it, and sometimes even more importantly, why. And if you are employing Gen Z, I'm a mom of Gen Z, right? These are the people born after 1995. They are why guys. They want to know why. Well, why do I have to do that? Why do I have to do that? In my generation, it was because I said so. They don't take because I said so for an answer. If you help them understand the vision and the why, you're going to get more buy-in from your people. So the third strategy is you want to organize your onboarding to optimize your operations. Onboarding is so important. And so often in early education, we've dismissed it as let's do an orientation to where you come in. I talk to you all day long. I give you all the information, give you a manual, and then put you in the 2-year-old classroom. And then you've got feral children running around and you have no idea how to handle them, right? You don't understand what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to do it. And the kids are dysregulated. And I'm joking when I say that, because sometimes if you're in a 2-year-old room, it truly is like trying to herd feral cats, because the kids are, they're running around and they're doing what's fun for them. And you don't know to make it fun for them. And so because you don't know what to do to make it fun for them, they're going to choose to make it fun for themselves. And that's not fun for anyone. So teaching your teachers how to run a classroom, how to teach, how to connect with the children, how to deliver your curriculum. That's really, really important, because oftentimes you're hiring people that don't know how to do that. So in addition to all the rules you need them to follow, they're just trying to survive in a classroom full of children that they don't know how to teach. So we've got a poll coming up. So Marissa, if you can pop that poll in, this is what I want to know. This is the poll question I have for us today. It's, do you have a consistent, duplicatable onboarding and training system and feel confident that every teacher knows what is expected daily? So tell me, is it 1, you love your automated and streamlined systems, 2, mostly, but your orientation is always a beating, or 3, you are constantly overwhelmed with training and redirecting your teachers? So tell me where you are on that. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to answer this. And I don't know if you guys can see the responses coming in. I mean, there's 105 of you guys on here. So are you listening? Are you chatting? So if you're multitasking, come back to us for just a minute. We've got a poll for you, and I am super curious to know. We've got just a few people who are saying that they love your automated streamlined system. And if you do, shout out to you. You are far and above what most childcare centers have, because that's just how we run things, right? And so if you can get your stuff automated, so where you've got this repeatable process, getting that business out of your brain is going to matter so much. Okay. Let's see. So we've got 17% are saying that you love your automated systems. We've got 46% saying mostly, but orientation can always be a beating. We got 37% feel like you're constantly overwhelmed with training and redirecting your teachers. So thank you guys thanks for playing along with that game. That's fun. So it looks like we've got a little bit of the A team, a little bit of the B team, and then a little bit of the C team coming up. But that's okay. This is not to shame in any way, shape, or form. This is just information to help us realize maybe where we need to put some focus. And Rhonda says, you love it, but there's room for more repetition to ensure mastery. Of course, absolutely. So there's always room to get together. We always have improvements. And like I said, when I showed that picture of KP and me in the beginning, every time we get together, we're like, okay, what do we need to be doing better? How can we improve this? What are the problems we have in our business? And what do we need to do to move forward? Heather, you asked, who is everyone using for your onboarding and training systems? I'm going to give you guys a free download here in a few minutes for those of you who don't have it. I know a lot of you on here do have this, but I'm going to give you a free handout that will show you some of the things that you can do. Okay, Shannon, you love the Kids Are Kids onboarding platform. I love it because I got to help design that. That was super fun to help to design that program. So Shannon, I'm glad that you find it helpful for you. Okay, next quote. Love me some John Maxwell. And John Maxwell says, policies are many and principles are few. Policies will never change, but principles never do. That means going back to your values. Maybe your policies change, but your principles, your values, those have to stay the same. So keep remembering that as you're creating new things in your business. Okay, there it is. So there's that checklist. So if you don't have it, go ahead and scan it and download it. If you do, obviously you don't need it. Nothing's changed. It just kind of walks you through how to take your paper manual and break it up into those 5 core components: your compliance, curriculum, compensation, culture. And it teaches you how to break down the information in a manual and put it into easily digestible chunks, so that when you sit down to make videos, which is digital learning for your people, it'll be super easy for you. So there's a free download for that. So go ahead and scan that. And then what does mapping out your onboarding process look like? So maybe take a picture of this slide, might be helpful for you if you know you need to map it out. So there are really 3 things that you kind of need to simplify it. I know you can get like a 50-page downloadable detailed list. This is different. Basically, what forms, pieces of paper do they need to get for you? Like, what paperwork do they need to give you? These are some things that you may need. So just think about, what does your state require for everything that needs to go into an employee file? Now, if your state will allow you to keep digital files, this is a very easy that you can do. Whether you use Google, Dropbox, Box, OneDrive, whatever your cloud is. Yeah, I'll put that back real quick, guys. I'll explain this real quick. Whatever your cloud is, you can create folders for people and they can upload their own documents. How about that? What a novel thing. Instead of them bringing you, oh, here's my license. Oh, here's my W4. Here's my I-9. You can create a folder with a checklist and say, hey, you guys go in and upload all of your documents into this folder, and you've got 48 hours to do it. Super easy to do if you don't have that. So some sort of digital onboarding is super helpful. Again, you don't have to have big paid systems. You know, the question was, Heather, you asked the question, what are you using for training and onboarding? I will tell you, I use my CRM to send out job contracts. So, and then there's something called Zapier, Zapier. Zapier is a back-end integration that makes softwares talk to each other. So when they sign their employee contract in my CRM, Zapier automatically creates their folder, and I use Box. They automatically create their folder in Box. They automatically assign them to my onboarding courses. For my onboarding courses that I create, I have a WordPress website. So I use LearnDash. That's the learning management system I use. It's a WordPress plugin. So if that's something that you're looking at, that might be a good resource for you. There's tons of them out there. LearnDash is super easy. That's what I use. So it automatically creates their folder, assigns them to our onboarding program, puts them on our email list. And here's another cool thing. It automatically puts in their birth date and their work anniversary into my Google Calendar. And it automatically tells me when their 30, 60, 90 day anniversaries are coming up, so that my leadership team knows when to do we call them grow meetings, when to do their one-on-one check-ins at 30, 60, 90 days. So that's probably a bit of a mind blow, but Google it. If you have any questions, you can shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to kind of break that down for you a little bit more. But there are things that you can automate that you do not have to touch that makes it so much easier to do your job. So hopefully that is helpful. So back at the contents, what file contents do you need to have? What emails do you need to send them? You know, again, can those be automated? And then in their live training, what does their live training look like? You know, I think it needs to be at least 30 days. Hopefully your onboarding goes on to 90 so that you've got some touch points along the way. But their live training needs to be, what does their in-class training look like when they show up at your school? What are you doing to create remarkable experiences for your new employees? You know, there was a study that was done, and a book I'm going to recommend, it's Never Lose an Employee Again by Joey Coleman. It's a great book, and he talks about the importance of creating remarkable experiences. And in that book, he references a study that said it doesn't matter how long an employee stays with you, it's the first 100 days they're going to determine whether they lock into your culture. Even if they're with you 20 years, it's that first 100 days is when they decide, are these people for me? And you want your people to be for you. So that's live training. Yes, Tamika, it's Zapier with 1 P. And then you get to watch your people enjoy your onboarding. I want you to remind you this. Are you telling yourself you don't have time to create this asset? You're lying to yourself. You have just as much time. You've got the same 24 hours. When can you do it? And can you see it working in your center? I hope you can. So KP, hi.
I'm back. Oops. Hi guys, I'm back. No, just wanting to remind you, you've got about 5 minutes, and we wanted to answer a couple questions. I know you're almost finished, but just kind of
We're
wrap
good.
it up.
We're finished. This is it.
Awesome.
Perfect timing.
Oh, perfect. Well, Marissa behind the scenes, you know, she's the magician. I wanted to say, I've heard you talk so many times, and of course we have our own personal relationship and we talk all the time when we see each other, but I took 4 more pages of notes. Could you do me a favor and either plug in, you talked pretty fast at the end because I know you're trying to get all the great content in. Could you just go ahead and go over how you would set that up, what you just did again on your processes for onboarding?
Yes. So I use a CRM. The CRM I use is Dubsado, but
yeah.
the back end integration, it's called Zapier, Zapier.
Yeah.
Zapier has a free platform where I think you can get 3 zaps a month for free. And then the paid program is only like $29. But I have an automations, specialist that I kind of work with, and I go to her and I say, what can I automate here to take this out of my plate? So that automation sets up their online folder, which I use Box. You can use Google, whatever. It sets them up in our Google Calendar. We use Google Calendar on our leadership team. So it automatically puts in their birth date and their work anniversary. So my leadership team knows and aware, like they're aware, hey, someone's 30 days coming up. I know my process at 30 days is to schedule this meeting. And then we have an SOP for what each of those meetings look like. Like what does your 30, 60, 90-day meetings look like in that onboarding process? I use a learn. So if you're going to put your training online, there's free ways to do it, right? I mean, you can create your videos and you can upload them to YouTube, and you can literally just make a PDF with links embedded. You know, here's course 1 and link embedded, and then you're going to want to make an assessment, and you can use Google Forms, for example. Mm-hmm. There's free ways to do it. And in that handout, I teach you some free ways to do it. And I give you some examples of ways that you can do it to pay. Mine's in a learning management system called Learn Dash. If you've got a WordPress website, you can create your courses and put them on your website. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, it's very helpful. Thank you, because I know a lot of people are wanting to keep up with that. And then Ingrid, we'll ask Beth to put the code in the chat if she can do it right now. We've got a gal attending on her phone, Beth, if you could put that QR code in the chat. If not, Ingrid, if you want to just go ahead and plug in your email, I'll have Beth send it to you shortly, and after the webinar. That would be good. And then Beth, I have another question, and I know actually we have a couple more we have to do in 2 minutes. Can you talk briefly about the remarkable experiences? I think that's something everyone shares with trying to do, onboarding gifts, or what do they do? What would you say would be like something a little out of the box or different that you like for a remarkable experience?
So think about, what does your first day look like? Like, how do you welcome them on their first day? Like, do they walk in and just stand and like, is no one expecting them? Do you have a sign? Welcome, Miss Kathe. We're glad you're here. Do you have a mentor set up for them? Like, do you have a mentor teacher who can be there to kind of be their work BFF? I think it's so important to have a mentoring system, other things. And if you look at that book, or I teach something called the employee experience, he talks about different ways to connect with people. So what videos can you share with them to connect and learn? Like Kathe, you as the owner, I would want you to make a video to tell your story of what is Bright, how did Bright Beginnings come about? When did you start? Why did you start? What's the vision? So videos, what snail mail pieces can you send them? Do you send them a welcome card in the mail? What emails do you give them? What in-person experiences can you share with them, and what online experiences? And then also, of course, too, swag. What swag could you give them?
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't say one of my favorites that I've heard you talk about before. What is their walk-on song? Like what? Because that's really fun. You do that sometimes for walking on stage, but how? I know sometimes we have a bubble machine at the preschools. When the kids walk in, there's a bubble machine going, and it's super fun. But what are the out of the box, quirky, we're preschool people, we want to have fun.
That would be fun. Like, do you do a conga line with the people when they walk in? Do you do a tunnel like you do at your kid's soccer game, where you put your hands and they run through it? Ask them, hey, if you had a walk-up song, what would that be? Like baseball players have that, right? When baseball players walk up to hit the ball, they've got a walk-up song. So ask them what their walk-up song is. Play their favorite song when they come into the building.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to bump into the next couple slides. There's a door closer question. Can you see the question, Beth, right now?
I can't see the question. What's the question?
I'm going to ask you, as we enter into the second half of 2024, what do you see as the industry's greatest risk and also greatest opportunity?
Well, risk, I think, is public pre-K. Yeah. I think, the ISD, the school districts are losing children because they've got so many different school options. And so they need butts in seats. And so they're going after 3 and 4-year-olds to get the state money, at least. So I think that's the biggest risk. And I think options, you've got to be innovative. Where can you bring more revenue? I've done enrichment programs in centers for 26 years. So get your enrichment programs in there, leverage your enrichment programs, get kickbacks from those programs, charge parents an additional activity fee to be able to include things. You've got to look at ways that you can bring revenue back into your building by offering parents more options, like offering classes like dance, gymnastics, whatever. Doing a diaper program. There's lots of different ways, but I think they need to be creative in looking at how to market to infants to 2-year-olds and bringing more services to serve those families better.
Yes.
And when you serve them better, they're going to pay you more.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Great answer. And then the last thing, and it looks like we lost my last couple slides, but we've got the next webinar coming up next month. It's in October 19th, and you're going to be treated to Nan on our team, Nan Ricard and Chirag Patel, and they're going to talk about opportunities for growth for your business. And what's interesting about them is they are both former operators, very successful operators who have both sold, and now they're members of our Hinge team. So please mark your calendar for it's October 19th. We would look forward to having you all join us then. And as always, Beth Cannon, such a star. Shouting out, you're going to be in Santa Barbara with us at the Shift Conference doing a breakout session. And also special, she's an amazing yoga instructor. So she's going to do yoga every morning first, and then she's also going to contribute with a breakout session. Do you have the title confirmed yet, Beth, for your Shift session?
Yes, it's going to be building your leadership playbook. It's brand new content. I'm so excited about it. And we're going to talk about how to build your leadership. We need a playbook for how we lead our leaders. And so that's what it's going to be. So I'm going to spend the next few months creating that content. And, Hinge always challenges me, right? Because you can't go in and teach the same thing. Like, it is the premier conference. You don't go there for rinse and repeat. You go there for the most cutting edge, latest and greatest. So I'm going to spend the next few months researching and bringing the latest and greatest. And Bob said in the chat that he's going to see me in yoga. So he's not going to be the only one. We're going to have a lot of fun with that.
That's awesome. Quite a few people in the chat are attending today, are coming. And sorry, I said October 19th for the conference or the next webinar. It's October 9th. I'm so sorry, guys. Wednesday, October 9th, 1 p.m. Growth strategy, maximizing the value of your childcare business with Nan and Chirag. So you'll be in for a treat. And as always, Beth Cannon, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Talk soon to everyone.